From Buffalo Wild Wings on 42nd Street in Fargo, welcome to Benchwarmers. Today's featured guests are Bison basketball head coach Dave Richman, Bison Illustrated editor Joe Kerlin, Midco Sports Network's Brian Shawn, and our host, Midco Sports Network's Tom Neiman.
Hello, welcome again to Benchwarmers in Fargo, North Dakota this week at Buffalo Wild Wings. And brain power like you wouldn't believe on the panel this week. And let's talk a little bit first about Joe Kerlin's magazine, Bison Illustrated. Comes out monthly. This is the latest edition for July. What's in the magazine this month?
Well, we got Bison Nation in the magazine this month, along with Matt Larson. So we sent out a survey on Facebook and social media sites, getting really the fans' thoughts on, what's going on with the athletic department. What are you talking about with your friends when you're having a beer? Talking about the basketball team, talking about the football team. So we gathered those questions, presented them to Matt Larson, and we just really went through it. And a lot of it was kind of more what's going on the financial side. Cost of attendance, how is that affecting NDSU? Team makers, what are they exactly doing? How much are they helping out these programs? And, the big football question, the FBS question. So we also tackle that one as well in this July edition of the magazine.
All right, always great. And about November, maybe we'll see David Richman gracing the cover of Bison Illustrated.
The question is beard or no beard?
I would say beard.
Absolutely beard. I want the scruff. We'll let you know a few days in advance so we can get it just right.
Bison Illustrated has been great for all of us. I think you see it in the offices, you see it in the homes. Some of our recruits are able to see it a little bit. Joe and Mike and their staff, they do a tremendous job with it.
What's going on with Bison basketball right now?
A little bit of everything. We just finished our camp month is June. We just finished that up, and that was a lot of fun. You got anywhere from the youth camp to our big man guard camp, which we invite a bunch of elite campers into. And that was very, very beneficial for us. We'll see how successful it is now that we go out in July. We're able to bring back a team camp now that we're into the shack and have some court space, which is nice to get that going again. And now we round into the busy time when we're basically on the road now for the next 3 weeks in July with a lot of recruiting. We welcomed 6 new guys in, probably about the middle of June. Along with 8 returners, so 14 guys. It's a very workable number for us that we're very excited about, and we're undefeated so far, so we're pleased. But a very good group of guys that really get along. They're really working hard, and we just need to maintain that here the rest of the summer.
A.J. Jacobson, Paul Miller, Tyson Ward, some of the familiar names that will be coming back. I'm interested in Cam Hunter.
Yeah.
Being a Kansas fan myself, his dad Cedric played for the Jayhawks back in the day, played for the Sioux Falls Skyforce for a while. Cam Hunter, redshirt freshman, point guard, what's he going to be?
We're very pleased. Like you and I were talking off air, Tom. He's really had a tremendous offseason so far, and you can kind of see it with the red shirt, so to speak. When guys are going through that, some of them handle it different ways. And Cam had a good one. Make no mistake about it. His freshman year was good, but you could really see, rounding into the spring. And now into the summer that he started to mature, and I think as you're going to be a point guard, you guys are paying attention to everything you're doing, in life, in the classroom, and then obviously on the court. And Cam's responded. He physically looks good. Just in a workout here this morning, he's bouncier, and so now they're just that can he maintain and sustain that thing throughout the course of 30-35 games.
What do you guys see coming up for David's team?
Well, I think it's exciting to see how the new is going to intertwine with the old. I think Dave was very busy in the spring with junior college kids and getting the kids that are going to be the right fit. They're going to have 3 years instead of 2. So I think that's kind of unique how you're able to bring some of those guys in and just see how, a guy like Cam Hunter goes, but also how a guy like Tyson Ward takes the next step and Jared Samuelson takes the next step. These guys had to play a lot of minutes, a lot of meaningful minutes as true freshmen. They finally get an off season to get their bodies ready, I think, for this college grind, and I think Dave even probably saw at the end of last year a little bit. Their bodies were kind of telling them to stop once they got in the middle of February. And just seeing Tyson and Jared and Cam even at Red Hawks games serving popcorn and hot dogs, you can see them actually, how physically they look a little bit different than what they looked like at the end of last year.
You talk about the right fit, players being the right fit, and the program's got to be the right fit. Let's talk about culture a little bit. You hear more and more about this all the time, and you didn't maybe 10 years ago, but what is the culture of your program for Bison men's basketball? What is culture?
We really talk about a culture of toughness and togetherness. And for us, at the very end of the day, and I use this full circle thing all the time, we're getting judged on winning, whether we like it or not. But more important to us is, how we're going about our business. It's not what we're doing, it's how we're doing it. And we really feel like if we have the right young men and they're taking care of business in the classroom, which is how we check our boxes as a person, as a student, and then as a player. Doing that thing the right way will go back and take care of the winning. And it's been a very, very successful recipe for us. In a period of time when you look at NDSU basketball, it was built up for 2009, a tremendous year. And then it was built back up for 2014. The post 2009, we won a total of 42 games. And post 2014, we won a total of 62 games. So we won 20 more games over that same 3-year span. And we really believe it's because of the type of young man and the culture that we've created. Because make no mistake, and you guys have been around it, you've seen it it's very difficult. The climate in Fargo, North Dakota, it's not for everybody. And so we really, we talk about it as a staff. When we go out and we recruit, we're not really just recruiting. We want to select, as much as they're selecting us, we're selecting, the prospect and their families as well, just to make sure that they understand on the front side what they're getting into. And when they do that, they know it's going to be a lot of hard work, but also a lot of fun, and it's been a very successful recipe for us.
So over the past 3 years, the senior classes haven't been very big, but they've been important players. I guess how important are they with trickling that Bison pride down to the underclassmen, just making sure that they get it?
Yeah, certainly. And you look at our 2014 team when we had 5 or 6 seniors. Through our tenure, 3 years of being here as a staff, we've had a total of 5 seniors. And so it's very important. And I still say this, probably the single best thing that happened to me as a first-year head coach was Lawrence Alexander. Just the luxury to lean on that kid and really give myself and this whole program continued confidence that we can keep this thing rolling. And it's nice to go into, I think, to Brian's point towards the end of the year, if a team hears so much from the head coach, at some point they start to tune it out. And when you have the Bison pride, when you have seniors and they can kind of handle a lot of those things before it gets to the coaching staff, it helps tremendously.
Yeah.
Right. No, I would agree. I think it comes down to, when you have culture, you have strong culture. Chris Kleiman went and visited a BCS coach, an FBS coach, and said, okay, so how would you have handled this coaching situation differently? And he goes, well, I wouldn't have needed to go over there. The players would have handled it before I got there. And that's when you have a strong culture, is when players are taking care of that and holding other players accountable, and that's where the leadership, I think, trickles down, to Dave's point.
All right, and I think when we talk about NDSU's basketball program, we talk about tough and disciplined, and they don't beat themselves, and I think those are all things that you've really tried to cultivate. How much toughness are you going to lose without Dexter Werner?
Well, we're going to lose some toughness, no question, and hopefully we don't lose some fans. That guy became a cult figure here in Fargo too. But I think that's part of me as a head coach, and then our staff is just, we talk to our guys about trusting the process. We got to trust the process. Who's going to be that next guy? Because when all those guys graduated, we were picked 5th. How's it going to happen? Well, Lawrence raised his level of play. Corey Brown raised his level of play. Well, then we lost Lawrence. How's it going to be? Well, a couple other guys stepped up. Dexter Werner was unheard of when he stepped on the floor. And now it's the Dylan Miller, the Spencer Eliason's coming in and filling it. What kind of step can Dangu take? And some of those things that you just got to, as a coach, it's unnerving at times, make no mistake.
Yeah.
But you have to just trust the process. And you can see it. Physically, our guys look better. They've had a tremendous offseason. Now we just need to continue to carry that over.
All right, looking forward to a Bison basketball season coming up this year, and the Bison play in the Summit League. There's been a lot of talk about the Summit League lately. They lose a team this summer. Is the sky falling for this league? We'll talk about that when we come back.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Fargo. And North Dakota State plays in the Summit League. The Summit League took a hit this summer when IUPUI left to go to the Horizon League. And you think it's IUPUI, nobody cares about them, but this is a big deal. It's a big loss for the league, isn't it?
Certainly, and I got the question a lot back last fall or whenever North Dakota got brought into the league of how do you feel about UND getting brought in the league? And to me, it wasn't so much about the University of North Dakota. It was just adding another team to the league and going into next year's 18-19 schedule of having 10 teams where you can formulate true travel partners. Another school like North Dakota where it was some regional ties to it, the travel was easy, and so that was the biggest thing. And now come sprung on us here June 30th where we lose a team, we're down to 8. It's tough, and I think most importantly, as a league, we need to make sure that we're being proactive here to gather and to make sure that our league is stable. Because and to say there's some stability in this day and age is crazy. But I think that's what our antennas need to be up for. Who's interested? Who can we pursue to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves?
Yeah, it's not just the Summit. It's other mid-major leagues right now. But 8 teams right now with IUPUI gone. 9 next year, next coming year with North Dakota coming in. But you think Fort Wayne at some point is going to go to another league, and then what happens? What's the magic number, Brian?
Well, Dave and I were just talking about this too. I think you at least want 10. But if you can get to 12, get to 12. It seems like everybody's trying to get bigger to protect themselves and guard themselves against it. But the problem with everybody else getting bigger is all these other leagues are going to start shriveling up and shrinking. So what league or leagues are going to be the odd leagues out, so to speak, when all this stuff is said and done? And
you think there's one that's going to totally go away?
Eventually, at some point, somebody's going to have to. If some of these other leagues get up to 10, 12 teams, the Horizon's talking about going to 14. If the Summit goes to 12, what happens to a WAC? What happens to some of these other leagues that are just kind of out there? I think you don't want the Summit League to be that league. So I think Commissioner Duple is going to be proactive and start looking at some schools and approaching some schools and saying, how fast can we get you in here? Here's why it makes sense. Let's make this happen.
Right, it seems like it's almost like a battle from the west side of the conference and the east side right now, with the east being pulled away with the Horizon League, and there's still the Big Sky out there where you could think maybe some of those schools would be interested in a move to the Summit League, but right now that conference is doing so well and so big already that it's going to be really a tall order to complete. So it's going to be interesting to see, if Fort Wayne does end up leaving, who else can come up. Is it someone that's not Division I right now? I don't know, Dave, do you have any thoughts on, who would be maybe the favorite to be the next Summit League member?
And I know, again, you and I talked about it. I'm not going to sit here today and throw specific names out, just that I hope it's a numbers thing. I just want to make sure that we're being proactive and protecting ourselves, because I do think it's such a volatile thing right now in this day and age with conference alignment.
Yeah, like you said, it's going to keep changing. It's not really time to panic. There's concern, but not panic, because
and we do. To Brian's point, we have a great thing going. The event in Sioux Falls that Sanford and the Premier Center and the Sioux Falls Authority puts on is tremendous, and it's a national scale tournament. The way the attendance numbers are, and to put that on ESPN2 and national audience like that, it's great. And we don't want to lose that. So that's where we need to make sure we're being proactive.
I'll throw a couple of names out. UMKC, Kansas City, that was in the Summit League but is now in the WAC. Grand Canyon down in Arizona is another WAC school that's just kind of floating out there that keeps getting brought up. Those would be nice additions, but at some point, we're going to have to see what happens with this, especially like Joe was talking about. There's some sort of geographical sense has been brought back into this, where you're not going all over the country with these leagues, and I think that's a good thing, but we'll see where it goes from here. And we've got a poll question coming up later about what Summit League, what school would you like to add to the Summit League, and we've got some possibilities there, but that's coming up later. All right, up next, why every college basketball player will do whatever it takes to play in the NBA, and the answer is dollar signs, and is that the only reason why guys are moving around, why there's a transfer explosion right now in college basketball?
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Fargo, and let's talk about why every college basketball player thinks he's got a shot at the NBA, whether he does or not. But you can't blame a kid, because there's such huge money right now, and the NBA free agency deals being made right now. James Harden at some point is going to make $57 million a year in this new contract that he signed. Timothy Mozgov will make $15 million with the Lakers, and nobody knows who he is this year. It's just insane. It's almost disgusting how much money these guys are making. Am I the old guy that's griping about this, or what do you guys think?
It's a lot of money, but good for them.
Yeah, true.
If they're paying it out, good for them. And I think to your point, certainly the money is very attractive, but also you want, and we talk to our kids. We have 5 or 6 kids playing professionally right now, and obviously not at the NBA level, but overseas. And you want those guys that have a vision beyond college basketball to keep driving forward, and certainly some of it's for the experience. Obviously, for some of them, it's the financial benefits to set themselves up too, but it's a lot of money. The free agency's been very interesting. This spring, this summer, but again, credit them. If they're going to get paid, let them get paid.
there will be at least 96 players this coming season that will make at least $10 million a year. I mean, that is insane to be a bench guy that can make that much money.
Well, and I think it's one of those things now too, is with NBA teams, you're constantly, it's just a guessing game with cap room and how is this going to work and how can we fit this guy in because we need this piece to shoot threes. I mean, it's amazing now how you put an NBA team together. Just look at the Timberwolves have done. Well, now we need this piece and that piece, but there's 8 other teams after them. So now we have our guys trying to recruit their guys, and it's turned into this whole thing anymore now where GMs have the money to do with it, but it's the actual players and other people that are doing most of the recruiting to try to get these guys come in, which to me is what has changed so much. It's not just about money anymore. It is, but it isn't.
Tampering is thrown out the window now. I don't think they're even enforcing that anymore because I think they're supposed to wait till July 1st to actually talk to the guys, kind of set up these deals, but now the players are going out there. And like you said, it's like an ever-changing jigsaw puzzle, because you're not really sure what the salary cap is going to be like this year. I think it's, at 99? And they projected it to be even higher, but then Golden State and Cleveland kind of just ran through the playoffs, so it wasn't as high as they projected even 2 years ago when you mentioned the Mozgov contract, when that happened last summer. So you look at those right now, and those are going to be the outliers, I think, going down the road. But ultimately, good for those guys. Good for those guys getting paid, and those TV contracts are so high, and they are making the content. They are the content producers for these networks. So
it is. All right, and that just leads to the point of transfers. And every kid that's playing Division I college basketball thinks maybe I've got a shot at this, and you dealt with this with a kid leaving this year, but 15% of all players from last year transferred out and will play for another team. That seems like a big number. Is there a transfer problem in college basketball?
I think to specifically answer your question, I think there is. I really do. You look at it, there's over 351 Division I programs, there's over 700 transfers. That's at least 2 per program, and we're part of that. And it's a little bit of an epidemic. But I think my charge as a head coach is to realize that that's what's going on. And so how are we going to adjust? There was an article the other day that there's a Division I school out east that they're literally selling that in the recruiting process. Come here if you get to a level and you want to go somewhere else, we'll help you. Like a junior college system. And to me, that's not right. But that's where college basketball is at. And we tried to do as much, going back to our culture talk, the selection of laying the groundwork that this is a deal. This is a 4 or 5 year commitment, and that's our process. And we want you to see that through. And that's where NDSU has been successful, and mid-major programs are successful with juniors and seniors.
It's shocking to me, Tom, how many kids are transferring that are playing major minutes, have been multi-year starters on winning programs, and are leaving to what they perceive as a higher level program that loses more. That is the part to me that's shocking, that you're willing to leave something you have for something that to me is not anywhere near a guarantee that you're going to get that many minutes or that many wins.
And you're one voice in their ear, and there's many. That's what you got to deal with, isn't it?
You're exactly right, and that's where, again, we try to, as much as we can in the recruiting process, deal with the young man, the prospect's parents, and maybe a coach or two. The more people that are in their ear, it's just more options that they think they might have. But are those options better?
Right.
It spreads across, so it spreads across, not just basketball, right? Football players are doing this, but I think over the past few years, and here specifically in Fargo, if you're good enough and you want to move on to that next level of play, you're going to be found. So that's where I don't understand as much. If your ultimate goal is to get that paycheck to play, why not just do with the best you have right now in this relationship that you agreed with this college for 4 or 5 years. So
makes sense to us, but not necessarily for every college basketball player.
You're willing to sit a year to play a year too. That's the part that doesn't mean why would you do that? That doesn't make sense to me.
All right, got to go. Winging it question coming up next concerning the Minnesota Timberwolves in the playoffs.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back. Time for our Winging It question of the week here at Buffalo Wild Wings. And for that, let's go into the lunchtime crowd here.
Thanks, Tom. Hey, we're here with Gavin Rydell from Fairmount, North Dakota. Gavin is a big NBA guy. He's got a question for the panel about the Timberwolves this season.
Hi, guys. I was wondering, what seed do you guys think the T-Wolves will get in the West this year?
Minnesota making moves, a playoff contender. What do you guys think they end up in the West?
All right, thanks, Gavin. And he is sure they're going to make the playoffs, with this new lineup with Jimmy Butler and the guys, but what seed will they be in the West? You guys take this.
I think they're a 7 to 8. They still weren't very good defensively. Yeah, you add a piece, but you still got other pieces that didn't do very well. They didn't rebound it very well. So I would say if they get in, it's a 7 or an 8, and they'll be done in the first round by Golden State or somebody else.
Yeah, I think I agree with being done in the first round, Brian. But I think they get a higher seed than 7 or 8, right? We're thinking almost 5. They're almost like that tier beneath the elite teams.
They haven't been in the playoffs for over a decade.
That doesn't matter. None of these
All of a
players.
sudden they're going to jump into it, be a top 5 seed? Are you kidding me?
Jimmy Butler's been in the playoffs. Tom Thibodeau's been in the playoffs. So he's getting the band back together. And I believe these Timberwolves, yes, there's going to be a first round exit. I can guarantee that. But I think that you got to give them a little more love than that. 50 wins might be a little too much. It's going to be a battle out there for those last 40 seeds, and I think they're going to win out for at least a 5.
42 to 44 wins would be good.
41 wins got you into the playoffs in either the East or the West last year. The Wolves won 31 games last year.
They're not.
So they got to jump.
Another
15.
leap with Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins, all those young guys coming up. This is a lot to be excited about with this team.
I hear you. I'm with you.
I'm not there yet.
All right, when we come back, our poll question: which Summit League team would be a great addition? We'll have that when we come back.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back. Our poll question this week: if the Summit League could add one school, who would you prefer? And the winner is Northern Colorado. Out of the choices there, would be a great travel partner for Denver in the Summit League, obviously, but to get them out of the Big Sky would be a big thing right now. But UMKC, Grand Canyon, final thought, Brian.
Yeah, and I think a school in San New Mexico State. I mean, I think any of these schools that are in the WAC may be looking to jump ship. So I think pick the best that you can find a travel partner with, and I think you're set.
I think I like the Northern Colorado one the most because it helps out with all the other sports as well.
I'm playing politician. I'm not naming a school. I just want schools.
You're so good at
as
it.
many as possible.
Numbers, numbers, numbers.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot. That's it here in Fargo. We'll see you next week in Sioux Falls.